Played the title quite a bit this morning when I discovered that there was a mosquito in my car while driving here. And I was trying to be inclusive, but my arms were flailing about. So if you saw a weird lady on the freeway, 99 going north, that would be me trying to include the mosquito in a unique way. And it survived, and so did I. I let it out right out in the parking lot, so we're all good. Yeah. And now, let's see. There we go. Inclusion Beyonce. I wasn't lying about that. This year's theme from Centers for Spirituality is called Spirituality in Action. And looking at that, as well as today's title in particular, I just had to do something different. I couldn't talk about what inclusion meant and tell you how to move beyond otherness when you're just staring at the backs of people's heads. So I decided that we're going to have more of an experiential time together, and I'll explain more about that in our conversation pods. So if there's one chair available, if you want to join, or you could sit there and join up later, you decide. But first, before I go into that, I have to share with you this next slide. Can everybody see that okay? I don't know if we could bring the lights down just a bit to accentuate the slide, but about a week ago I took a walk in Bidwell Park, and it struck me the incredible variety of trees that we have there. There's oak and cypress and redwood and what else? Sycamore, lots of sycamore. And elm and Chinese pistachio. I didn't even know that was a thing. So we have this incredible variety. Now, I know that the poison oak and the grapevines kind of think they're the boss of everything, but the trees exist in this incredible harmonic way, creating a beautiful thing called Bidwell Park. It's not called Bidwell Orchard, where there's just one tree mile after mile. Think how boring that would be. And now, I'd like us to all read together this quote by Ernest Holmes. If our human relations are to mean the most to us, we must sense that there is within, around, and through each of us a divine presence manifesting itself in infinite variations, the same impulse, the same love and life, but never quite alike in any two persons. Okay, it's a lot of words, but basically, we're all part of this great whole, but expressing in our own unique ways. So in a second, I'm going to have you share together in what I call these conversation pods, and you can always pass, but it would be great if you would participate. We'll have about 3 or 4 minutes, and please try and let everyone who wants to share, and what you don't share here, you're welcome to continue that conversation in Loftus Hall after the service. So those who are listening at home, I invite you to pull somebody in from the other room, hopefully not against their will, and have a conversation, call somebody on the phone and talk about it, or just talk to yourself. It's totally acceptable. Now, I'm going to ring this chime twice to have you kind of conclude your conversation, and then a third time to have you focus back up here. Any questions? Yes?
What are we including in the conversation at this time?
Right now, nothing, until I give you the question. No, you don't just have to make stuff up, and no, I'm guiding all that. Okay, now, what I'd like to begin with is have everyone just put your hands in the center like this. And I want you to look at the unique hands that you all have. Maybe slightly different shades, some fingers longer or shorter, but they're all attached to a unique individual. And now, if you focus up here for a moment, I'd like you to all, in these next 3 or 4 minutes, find one thing you all have in common and one way you are all unique. Okay? So fine, you can't just use the hand analogy. That was mine. You have to come up with your own, okay? So go ahead, and I'm going to set my timer.
It's getting a little thin on top, Terry.
What do you like to do every day?
You don't have to keep your hands extended the whole time. Unless you like to. Oh, good. Oh, yeah. There is another chair right up there in that group. Do you want to join him?
I couldn't see.
Oh, yes. No, please come. You have your choice here or here? Okay, great. You guys, please welcome this young woman. All right. See how that first trial run went? Okay, great. Would anybody like to share something you discovered in your group? Stop.
We all breathe the same air.
You all breathe the same air. Okay, great. Anybody else? Any other more details? Yes.
We're all searching for the same thing.
All searching for the same thing. Okay, great.
We all want to be happy and to love and be loved.
Ah, nice.
We are all here because we are like-minded.
Could you say that for the people
We
at
are
home?
all here because we are all like-minded.
That's true. We all need food. Yes, that is a big one. Anybody else want to share one thing?
all made a choice to come here today.
Okay, great. Not knowing what you were going to get into. I admire your bravery. I didn't threaten any of you to have to be here, okay? Now, let's go on with another quote from Ernest Holmes. Please join me in reading this. What is the key to living peace, inclusiveness, to bring everyone into the love and life of God, to see all as sacred and individualized expressions of the divine, accept all with unconditional love, invite and exclude no one, unless they're a mosquito. So part of this is stuff that we already know. This idea of inviting everyone, excluding no one, yet it can be a challenge at times. And I want you to look at all the different variations, just like out here, there's different colors of people, different shapes, sizes, ages, but they're all part of this incredible humanity that we have. A number of years ago, when I was in the Peace Corps, this little girl came up to me and she was rubbing my arm and she said, "Oh, Lisa, you're clean. I'm dirty." And I was so shocked to think that she had come to that conclusion about her beautiful brown skin. Also, 4 years ago, right around this time, I was in Sri Lanka. And I was really saddened to think that some of those wonderful people that I laughed with in cafes, the children that I played with on beaches, might not be here as of a week ago. Nor are some people's lives changed forever due to the recent synagogue shooting. And so extreme fanaticism has taken far too many lives. Gandhi said, "An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind." And now what I'd like is for you to discuss, who do you feel like you can include more in your world? Who can you reach out to who might be different from you? So we're kind of taking it up a notch a bit. Think about maybe what judgments can you put aside to reach out to someone. Okay, so go ahead and discuss now in your group, however you want to begin, thinking about how can you be more including to people who, maybe it's a different age of somebody, a different denomination, a different culture. So go ahead and discuss that. Is everything okay? Okay, I might have to do a fourth chime for some of you. Don't make me do 5 now. Okay, perhaps a little bit more difficult of a topic, but would anybody like to share some things they discovered? Yes.
Well, we were just discussing how our hearts go out to the homeless and people that are really down and struggling, and how to reach out if you don't really have a home for them, or you don't, have this or that. And we all came to the conclusion that, it just pray for them,
Right.
and do treatment for them. But the homeless and
Right.
it was the subject. So.
Great. That is a big challenge that we have right now. Kat.
Hi. Hi, I'm Kat, for those who don't know. It's something as simple as getting to know your neighbors. We, a lot of times, don't even know our neighbors. We don't know who they are other than to not even say hi or wave or whatever. But do we know their cars? Do we know what cars come up and down our streets? Do we know the neighbors if there's a problem? And somebody said, well, you can't go out and just knock on doors. But now with people, well, now with it being nice, people are out gardening. They're working in the yard. Go up and say hi. Introduce yourself.
Great. Thank you. Yes. How many people have met their neighbors on both sides of them? Great. Also, when we talk again, please make sure that you know people's names in your pod today, too. I realized I didn't invite you to introduce yourselves. One last share. Anybody over here? Okay. Leo?
Well, we kind of have 3. We have
Okay, just pick one.
quilting. We're all going to take up
Quilting.
quilting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, we'll leave it at that. She said that it was quilting. I think they were going back to the first question, though. So, what they have in common. Okay. One more, Jane.
What our children are thinking.
We need to know. No, you don't always want to know what your children are thinking. Trust me. That's a whole other subject. Okay, let's move on now to this next slide. Another quote from Ernest Holmes. There is one spirit incarnated in everyone, an immortal presence forever expanding everything, causing everything to grow. What a difference it would make in our human relations if we tried to sense the meaning of this divine incarnation in all people and adjust our viewpoint to the truth that all are bound together in the unity of God. So as difficult as it may be to adjust our viewpoint, to change something that we might have believed for years and years about a group of people or an individual, but to begin to move into that. Shortly after 9/11, I was traveling down in Borneo with a friend, and we were heading out to an outer island on this particular day. So we boarded this small little boat, about 12 feet long. It was just the two of us as Americans. Shortly, two men came aboard, and I could tell that they were from Afghanistan. And they seemed a bit hesitant to get on the boat with us. But they did, and they sat as far away as they could on this little boat. And then we were a little alarmed as well, because all the images I had recently seen were people who looked just like that, with the label of terrorist on the news screen. And so we, all in fear, went out to this outer island. When we landed, they spoke their language, we spoke ours, and we all went off. Well, a number of hours later, upon our return, we got on the boat. It was the last boat out. And we were surprised to see these two men again. And we could see their reaction as well as having to share the boat with us once more. And so they sat on the far end. Within moments of leaving the shore, a big storm came up, and it began to just rain in sideways. We could feel the rain coming down. And my friend quickly rigged up a little bamboo mat that he had created for shelter. And we gestured to the two men to join us. And they reluctantly did. And so as we stood under this little mat, all getting drenched, we began to laugh at our predicament. For in that moment, it didn't matter what country we were from, what religion we were from, or we believed in, or what gender we had. What mattered was that we were all human, with skin that was capable of getting soaked. So when we landed, we smiled and waved goodbye. Little acts, but they made such a difference to us in that moment. So now I would just like you to contemplate this next question. How can we practice seeing unity in those who are different from us? What tools can we begin to use? Are we always stuck in a tug of war? Or is there a better way to go about things? And now I'd like to share with you a video called Speak Up for Inclusion. You ready? Do I have to push anything? No? It's just about 4 minutes long, and I hope you'll enjoy. Is there anything you can do to fix that? Good thing there are subtitles. Okay, we'll run it back for you. Okay, just if you freeze it for a second. I'll read them out loud if we can't, but let's see, I think we could get it. Is it coming at all? We'll give it one more chance. All these wonderful technology can be great, and it can also have its downsides. So I was hoping that you'd be able to hear the music from it. There. Great, thank you.
There are people out there that would consider me, quote unquote, I hate this word, but a terrorist.
As an Indigenous person, you were known as somebody who potentially could be a drunk, have substance abuse issues.
Being Indian, they may have expected me to know a lot about computers.
It's sometimes a really unique experience navigating the world as a person with a disability who looks to be completely able-bodied.
He made a comment about, well, don't worry about this that's going on because you won't be here too much longer. You'll be off having your next baby soon.
Most women are, told they need to behave a certain way.
People really think that my generation is lazy.
Just another blonde waitress.
Hey, do you rap?
The only black girl. I didn't belong.
I guess kind of growing up, people made these assumptions about what I was supposed to be, but it was really eye-opening for me to realize that I had been making those same assumptions myself.
We all like to think that we're inclusive, but sometimes we don't actually step back and think, wait a second, did I hear everybody in the room?
I mean, don't judge is the message, but it's also hard not to.
I always thought that every gay man was flamboyant and rude.
The older generation is set in their ways.
Initially, I thought there was something weird about a girl who would want to be a camera operator because of the word cameraman, and we still have to work past these things and stuff.
I went into the school on my first day, and there's these little girls and they're wearing hijabs, and I was really intimidated by that.
Have your initial judgments, but also be willing to learn.
My definition of inclusion is a world and a society in which constructed barriers have been torn down.
Inclusion for me is setting up an environment where everybody is comfortable.
Open to accept other people's opinions.
All individuals, regardless of their diversity, feel welcomed, feel respected.
It means that they don't have to try to be what others expect them to be.
Change is possible, but it takes the right person to make a change happen.
I had a shop floor supervisor who stood up for me and sent out a company-wide email saying that Robin has every legal right to use the women's change rooms. It's funny because you do find allies in some of the strangest places.
One thing we can do to support inclusion is to talk about it.
You have to demonstrate that you're committed to this.
Get to know people around you. Do something different. Learn something different. Learn about a culture.
Different races, different religions, different belief systems, and see what there's good in all those things.
Be an active listener. That's one of the things I practice with other immigrants as well.
Open up your mind and take your time and get to know someone instead of putting them in this box. Because showing that interest, it's gonna surprise you.
Ask me a stupid question. I don't care if it's a stupid question, just ask me.
I'm an open book and willing to answer them.
I don't see it as a negative thing. I see it as a teachable moment.
Just ask me how to pronounce my name.
It's simple. You decide that other people's feelings and experiences matter.
We need to have more uncomfortable conversations so that we can drive more inclusion. And oftentimes, it's not easy.
We're not there, but certainly we're on the right track.
And it's important, otherwise change will never happen.
My name is Shomodeep Ganguly, but people call me Sam.
I am Layla Karem.
Mutsa Matanga.
Ms. Geneviève Leblanc.
Ashley Pasila.
Patrick Duff. Neil McLaughlin.
Helena Gotchling.
Rod Bolger.
Jessica Shute.
Kazim Marcano. I'm a chef and I forge metals.
A proud mother.
Forklift operator and a truck driver.
I envision a day when we can just be so accepting of each other, where we can make space for others.
I hope you could identify, all of you, with at least one person up there and know how it feels to not only be not included, but maybe at times not including somebody, and still be compassionate with yourself so you can move forward and grow from it. I wanted to share a brief experience I had growing up in Chico in the late 60s when I was a small child. There weren't many black children, but there were a few at Chapman Elementary School where I went, and one of them was my friend Sherry. One day, some kids were picking on her for the color of her skin. And this really upset me. So I went home and I told my mother and I asked her why. And she tried to keep it simple for my 7-year-old brain. And she said, well, honey, black people are good. It's just that God forgot and left them in the oven a little too long. And that's why their skin color is darker. Well, I went back to school the next day. And when these kids started picking on Sherry, I literally said, leave her alone. God just left her in the oven a little too long. But I said it in such a bold, confident way that they backed off and left she and I alone. And the point from this is that communication doesn't have to be perfect. But if you're truly intending to get to know and understand another person more, it might be a little awkward at first as you forage through new communications. But it's important that we begin doing this. And now for the next question. Wow, he brought it back. I'd like you to discuss what fears do you need to release to be more inclusive. So please, as a group, maybe discuss the fears or what tools have you learned to use to be able to be more inclusive. So go ahead now and do that. It is. Remember, you can continue sharing in Loftus Hall for Books and Bistro. Would anybody like to briefly, we'll brief now, but share maybe one insight that you received? Something that you learned? Maybe for yourself? Oh, wait. Hold on. Okay. And she had her hand up, so you were...
Most of us discussed almost fear or insecurity of just speaking up at all.
Great. And that's the first step, is recognizing those fears and insecurities. Sam, did you want to say that again?
Becoming more aware of your individual expression of who you are.
Okay.
Period.
Great. Thank you.
Getting out of your box.
Mm-hmm. And realizing your beliefs that you maybe didn't even know you had. Okay, thank you. And now, please join me in reading Deepak Chopra's quote. Behind the appearance of separation is one unified field of wholeness. Here, the seer and the scenery are one. So when you think about it, there is no other out there. There is only one that truly springs up in an individualized expression from all of us. Science is determining this more and more every day. That's what I love about our teaching. We do rely on science, and they're finding this unified field that connects us all through energy, through our cells, through our thoughts. So we're made up of stardust in our bodies. Literally, if you hadn't heard that before, it amazed me that the same elements from way out there were in our particles. We are united by an incredible loving force. I want to share with you now this poem by a Native American poet. Howard Rayner is his name, and it's called The Ascent. Grab hold and take this hand that reaches out to you. Look up into my eyes. My spirit cries out to you. Friendship is my thought. Let us climb the jagged cliffs of life and fight the ascent of separation together. If I can lift you up today, you will look back and grab the hands of 1,000 more. That is the way the Great Spirit would have it. End of quote. So we are all unique expressions of this one universal spirit. A universe that includes everyone, excludes no one. So let us begin today by starting to act and speak with this knowledge and understanding of the truth that does exist. Thank you for coming and participating. Namaste. Now,